Evening.
Good evening, Chuck.
Good evening.
Today, I just want to ask you a few questions about some words of wisdom for the young black men of today. As you currently know, we face a lot of issues across the board, from families to education to employment. I myself, being a young black man who faced trials and tribulations, I was born in Dagenham and I moved to Hackney at the age of 2. But the problems that arose from that was I did not become streetwise. So when I was in school, I didn't know how to socialize. So I was always fighting with people, getting excluded here and there, and it was just a whole load of palaver. Even in secondary school, it kind of tipped over. It had a massive impact on my behaviour. I mean, I was very good academically, but because I was very destructive, my teachers would just kick me out of the classroom, and that obviously had an effect on my academics to come. By 16, 17, I realised, I guess I was awoken to the fact that society was pushing me in a direction I didn't want to go down. So, at that snap moment, I decided, no, I'm going to change my life, and I'm going to, succeed. I'm going to do what I need to do to get out of this rut I'm currently in. I started looking for jobs. I was watching YouTube videos to get inspired, how to give great first impressions. I was really trying to find out how to be better than the rest. I'd just like to ask you a few questions. But first of all, I'd like you guys to first give an introduction to yourselves.
My name is Michelle Terry, and I'm currently a barrister. I was called to the bar in 2000. I've been a practicing barrister for approximately 15 years. Last year, I set up a limited company to provide legal services. That was the first time it was regulated by the Bar Standards Board. My first client is a serious fraud office, where I currently provide legal services in relation to financial matters, financial crime.
Well, good evening. My name is Seymour MacLeod. My background is not too dissimilar. However, in my days, we were associated by sound systems.
Yeah.
I was born here in the UK, and my father was one of those Jamaicans who had a 5-year plan, so he took us all back to Jamaica.
Okay.
We were blessed in that my grandmother was a hard-working woman, and we had what I now know as multiple streams of income. I wanted to challenge myself. I was surrounded by multimillionaires, because at some point in my head I'm going to be a millionaire, so I surrounded myself with the people I want to be like. Right now, me and my missus, we fund a breakfast program in Jamaica, because kids are going to school without breakfast, without no money for lunch, and we think, how are they going to learn?
My name is Nana, and I'm the founder of Nana Ajman. I'm the founder of Access UK, which stands for African Caribbean Careers and Employment Support Services UK. I've been in the recruitment and welfare to work industry for about 17 years. 2011, obviously there was the riots, and the guy that was killed, Mark, was someone that was known to me because I've got a lot of friends in Tottenham, North London. So I kind of knew the background story to him being killed by the police. I was part of a steering group looking at the kind of the factors behind, the uprisings or riots, whatever you want to call it, disturbances, and I came across some stats. Yeah, the huge youth unemployment amongst black males, in particular, 1 in 2 unemployed, like 50% across the UK. So I thought to myself, okay, I get people into work. That's what I've been doing for years. I've worked for years for whatever. I come from an environment which would have been deemed as in terms of my state and my surroundings, like a gang, as they'll call it now. But that gang tag is a lot of nonsense. But it would have been deemed that we were a gang. So I had an understanding for my environment, what it's like to come from that background. So Access was set up specifically to provide a bespoke careers and guidance services for black people, whether it be a graduate or someone who's just come out of jail. Our whole thing is to say, look, we understand the person's walking through the door, we understand the barriers you face, and we've got solutions there when they walk in that they can access.
What was your first job and how much did you get?
In order to become a barrister, you have to go to law school after you you get your first degree. So I went to bar school in Bristol, and that's not enough. When you finish the formal academics, you still have to do what's called pupillage. It's like an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And in those days, back in the early 2000s, they actually had a situation where you applied for pupillage, a similar situation to applying for university. So you kind of put down your choices, ranking in your first to last. And I was fortunate enough to obtain a pupillage. But one might say there was a catch. And that is that at that time, you had funded and non-funded pupillages.
Okay.
So essentially, my first foray into becoming a barrister, I worked for free for a year. And I was fortunate enough that my family supported me financially, but I also worked part-time. So my first job in the profession, I didn't get paid.
What problems do you feel Gen Y and Z face in this current climate?
I think it's funny because listening to your story, there's so many things that resonates with me. And what it shows is that even these things always come back, and it's the same.
Yeah.
It's kind of rooted in the same things,
Yeah.
same themes.
Yeah.
Keep on coming back again and again, and that's why I was laughing at some of the stuff you're saying. I mean, we live in a world where, obviously, when I was you, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all these influences. The youths are constantly being bombarded with materialism and these things, and it's very, very hard as a youth, especially if you've got no guidance or no support structure, to kind of not get drawn in by it. Yeah, whether it's the latest trends, which we had that as well, but not the same extreme. Latest gadgets, latest this, latest that, and then that kind of lens. If you come from a background where that's not easily accessible, you might find some innovative ways to kind of get the stuff, which is obviously no good or going to get you in trouble with the law. So I think in terms of this generation, I think even more so than my generation and the generation before, is the pressures are just enormous and everything's been scaled up.
Do you believe inspiration and motivation are important? If so, what inspires and motivates you?
In Railton Road, there used to be a group, Linton Kwesi Johnson, Sierra Lara James. He's now died, but he was one of the first historians. And I used to go there first, listen to poetry, listen to them read, and then with my book, I'd go to the clubs. And they used to call me preacher because I was always talking about black culture and black history from a young age. So yeah, inspiration. I believe in role models and also doing something. I'm a governor at my son's school, so the teachers call me in to speak to the young black boys who are not engaging. I've done a lot of, I was on the Hackney Community Relations Council in Hackney here itself for a few years. So I've always believed in giving back.
What tips would you give to young people currently looking for employment?
In terms of black youth, you have to understand that first of all, there's external things you can't change. Yeah?
Yes.
You need to be very focused on what you can change to make your situation better.
Yes.
Yeah. So complaining about an employer that you think is racist wherever is pointless. Look for employers that are inclusive and target them. Forget the rest. You can't do nothing about them. So that's one thing I'll say. Like trying to have more impact on what in your own life, tweaking things or whatever else. The job market is very competitive.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure you're raising your bar all the time. For example, what you said there, you was watching like YouTube videos and kind of enhancing your skills, making sure you're on top of that competition. So you have to be very competitive. And like I said, you're living in an environment where you're the so-called minority. So you have to raise your game, raise your bar, and persistence. Yeah, persevere.
Yes.
Nothing good comes easy.
Yeah.
You would get lots of disappointments.
Yes.
Learn from the disappointments and make you a better and stronger person, because you inevitably will come. I mean, today, ironically, before we started shooting, I got an email from a funder saying that we're not going to get no money. You see what I'm saying? I was relying on that coming through, but I was like, whatever. See what I'm trying to say? Because I know I've got other avenues, other streams coming through. A lot of our business is commercial, where we sell what we do and get paid. Some of it is grants, some of it's donations. So I'm like, okay, you know, one door closes, as Bob Marley says, many more open. So I'm saying, so it's about having that positivity. No, you will get knockbacks, but continue going through. So those are three.
Yes.
Yeah, resilience. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What sacrifices have you made, if at all, in order for you to get to where you are now?
I'm very much a believer in language, and I would probably say there are things I've done that I've prioritised over other things. So I wouldn't use the word sacrifice because it makes it sound as if I've missed out on something in order to achieve my goal. And the reason why I say language, because I think it's all about expression, and it's about a state of mind. And I think if you think you're giving something up for something else, it makes you want that thing that you can't have. Whereas I want it all. So at any given time, something has to stand out more than anything else.
Yes.
And you stay, as you're saying, perseverance. You stay the course.
That's it.
You have your focus. You know your end game. And that is what you do. And to be honest, all the rest is just white noise.
Yeah. Have you ever been so low that you wanted to give up?
I think this low thing is it's all relative. It's all relative. Because what somebody else might deem as low, I might think actually, you know what, it's water for duck's back. But one thing is, again, going back to the upbringing, I come from a hardcore Ghanaian family. They're very hard, and they don't cry over spilled milk. So in terms of you have disappointment, in terms of myself, I've had disappointments, but I just brush it off and carry on going. But that's something that's something that's been instilled in me from day dot.
Yes. What are your core values and how do they serve you?
I'd probably pick 3 words to describe myself.
Yes.
Honest, hardworking,
Yes.
and determined. And I'd say that's probably the bedrock of me. And again, leading on, that's for my family. Education was fundamental in our house, but it wasn't a chore. It was just part of our environment.
Yeah, this is the norm.
When I say honesty, I think honesty is about a true representation of yourself,
100%.
not based on what someone else thinks.
That's it.
Yeah. Have you faced racism in the workplace?
I'll say probably. I don't think I've ever had any direct racism,
Yes.
but as we know, it's not something that is necessarily tangible. It's a very discreet thing.
Yeah.
And I work in an environment that is historically white, male
Dominated,
arena,
Yeah.
and I'm there. I'm doing the same work they're doing. I'm in the same courts that they're in.
Top 3 tips to BAME struggling to find work.
Be very savvy in terms of what employers you approach.
Yeah.
One of the advice I'll say, it's not just bigging us up, is contact us, contact Access UK. That's what we're set up to do. We're set up to help young black people into work and training, and we've got specific solutions for that. So that's 2, right? And the resilience thing. Resilience, know that, you know what, there are options out there for you.
Yeah.
You think the options are closed, but there's a lot of options. Like, one of the biggest things that we know is there's a huge demand for BMEs to go abroad. If you're willing, for example, to go abroad, Africa, Nigeria being the most one of the fastest growing economies in the world, Ghana, Singapore, Malaysia, even in the Caribbean. So I'm saying, so there's a huge demand for you abroad. Like, don't assume that you're this is just it.
So stepping out the norm.
That's it. Stepping out your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You cannot beat research. That's what I'd say to young people.
Yeah.
You cannot beat research. Know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
The other thing is that make yourself viable. Make it difficult for an employer to say no to you.
Yes.
And the other thing is that think about what young people need to think about. The people who are going to be the employers interviewing them. What's the kind of background they have? I remember when I started to do personal development, I decided I want to own my own company, but I was never a managing director. So I read the Sunday Times. So I'd apply to all the jobs just to look at what the selection criteria is, what kind of experience they're asking, and then set about trying to get those experiences. And most of those experiences I got via volunteering.
Education.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily talking about the traditional education. I'm talking about everyone has a skill. Educate yourself as to what your skill is and what you can do with that skill.
Absolutely.
Everybody has something unique that someone else wants. And that's another thing. Network.
Network. Yeah.
But I'm not talking about schmoozing. People hear network and they think it's a dirty word. Because it sounds like you want something. Connect with people.
Connecting,
That's what it's about, connecting.
That's it.
And I'd probably say the third thing, self-belief.
Yes.
If you don't believe that you can achieve your goal, no one else is
Nobody
going
else
to.
is it.
No one's going to buy into it, and
That's
they're
it.
certainly not going to pay you.
That's it. That's it.
Well,
That's it.
thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure to hear your experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Thank
you.
you. It's
And
been a
you've just
pleasure.
inspired me. It's like I feel like I want to be sitting with all of them.